What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Beers and Breakdowns. In this episode, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Tyler Gray with us once again. Thanks for coming, dude.
Thanks for having me.
And we're doing a super cool show. Tyler's short on time, so hopefully we'll get through 2 parts of it. But if not, we'll get through part 1. And I think it's perfectly fitting that you showed up for this show because this is 6 days, which is about a tier 1 element, SAS. True story. I don't know how true the movie is to the story, and maybe you know more about that than I do, but tier 1 guy, tier 1 show, perfect. Let's go.
Yeah, and SAS, you know, they're the OGs. You know, the unit I was formerly a part of is based on, you know, the SAS. So the SAS is the, you know, again, tier 1 is doesn't really mean what most people think it means, but you know, the SAS is the original, you know, tier 1 unit, and they are the mold by which all other high level, well, especially counter-terrorism units are based. So the SAS is the OGs, and this real life called Operation Nimrod, which was the storming of the Iranian embassy in 1980, I believe, was actually one of like the OG, you know, counter-terrorism hostage rescue raids. So it's one of the most famous. I have actually studied it, so it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing story. So I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, the movie's so badass. To me, I loved watching it, and there were some really awesome scenes in this. But let's jump into those scenes, and we can talk about them.
All right.
You get back! I'll be back now. Renegotiate it now. I want to negotiate it here now.
Tony, you're not going to believe this.
A little bit of flagging going on there. Nothing like a flashlight in the back.
So to me, I saw this and I was like, wow, there's a lot happening. So first, the gas masks, you have the live rounds with actual people in there. So you have they had 2 live, and then obviously the dummies that they're shooting live rounds, live people, gas masks to add an extra level of and I can't imagine a gas mask ever making your aim better. And then, you know, completely dark, so they're using white light. I feel like they couldn't throw any more into this training scenario. Is that something that you guys would do, and why the gas mask?
Well, in my opinion, the gas masks are used in this movie because the actual operation was done with gas masks. So I believe, based on my production experience, that they put the gas masks in here just to mirror what the actual mission kit would be later.
Okay.
That being said, on a real world, you know, I think, again, based on what I know about this, I think they were doing, I can't remember, and we'll see later if they use CS or whatever, but I think at this time the SAS was using gas masks probably more than they do now, because I don't even remember if they gas it, actually. I don't even think they do.
Watching this, I don't think they did either.
I don't think they do.
That was kind of my question, is like, okay, are they wearing the gas mask?
What's the point?
Yeah, in order to prevent themselves being gassed, or are they wearing it so they can gas and then just flow through? Which, that seems like a smart tactic decision if there's not hostages involved, and it's a different kind of scenario where you're only bad guys. If you CS the whole thing and you're walking through chilling, I mean, that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, I don't really. I think it's a great question, and guys, look it up. But I don't think they gas it in real life. I don't think they do it, therefore, in the movie. And so I don't really know why they did the operation with gas masks. That's something to look into. Obviously, as you said, gas masks make everything disproportionately harder. Mm-hmm. Your cheek weld, obviously, especially with these gas masks, because they didn't have the adjustment for the cheek weld at that time. I mean, 1980, so the equipment was very, very different than now. So anything with a gas mask is disproportionately harder than without. We used to do a lot of training in gas mask. And I can tell you from our training with gas mask, we did it specifically to make it harder, which may be but I don't know why you'd make a mission harder. Yeah. But we did training often with gas mask truly in order to just make it more difficult, because if you can do it and do it with, then you can definitely do it without.
That's cool. And last question about the tier 1 stuff. Are you guys, and especially in the unit that you were in, are you guys doing a lot of having live people in when you're doing live rounds? Or is that something you save for like a one last run through?
No, it was done. It wasn't done a lot.
It's unnecessary risk at some point, right?
Yes, it's unnecessary risk to do it for no reason. You know, if I won't say exactly why, but when we did it with live people inside and live rounds, there was a good reason why we were putting those people at that risk. There was a bigger reason why we were doing it. I'll just say it that way.
The people sitting there, or the people going through the scenario, or both?
Well, the risk is for the people that are in the scenario, you know, having live rounds go by them. When we did do that, which we did, it was done for a very specific reason. So it wasn't a common thing we did in training. It was done we did do it, but it was done rarely and for a specific reason, which I won't mention.
Good enough for me. I like that. I like that because, again, it just shows the depth that as we climb higher, we're always thinking, and we're not just doing things for the sake of doing things. Especially you get on the internet and you love to see people just going crazy with shooting by people, and it's like, listen, everything our military is doing, we tend to try to make it for a very specific reason to help somebody get better, not just for the sake of being more dangerous.
Yeah, there's no reason to do something. I mean, that is obviously unsafe, obviously. And so it therefore shouldn't be done unless there's a good reason to justify it.
And you had good reason.
And we had good reason, absolutely.
Boom, that's all we need.
Fucking press are everywhere. Do not let them make you.
Right. Just remember, lads. We're cleaners.
Aye. Clean us down to the fucking teeth.
All right, pause. I just thought that was a cool, like, kind of scene because it makes you realize the different operational concerns, like operational environment concerns. Where we go overseas, obviously everyone knows who we are all the time, but operating in your own country has its own unique challenges, and part of that is having to hide from your own people in order to do a positive thing for those people. We found I dealt with that as a cop, where it's like, if you're going on operation, if anybody finds out who you are, it could ruin that operation. So now they're having to hide from press, they're having to hide from police, and it's like it's such a weird thing to.
Yeah, I had an incident with press when I was in Iraq, actually. Kind of a cat and mouse game. Like, he knew where I was from, and literally I was like doing my best to avoid him, and it went back and forth, and he would ask me questions, and I would just verbal kung fu, trying to not be an asshole, but dodge giving him anything. And it's what's interesting about the SAS is still to this day, the SAS does a domestic counter-terror rotation. If you look up the London Bridge bombing, you'll see that the SAS was there and responded. So there's an actual part of the SAS that does a domestic counter-terror rotation, which there is no equivalent like that in the United States because of the Posse Comitatus law, which states that U.S. forces cannot operate on domestic soil, with the exception of the National Guard, because they are a state asset.
Oh, that's wild. Thus, the importance of our SWAT teams.
And federal, so counterterrorism missions within the United States fall under the FBI HRT, both regional, FBI regional SWAT, and then FBI HRT, which is one unit based in Virginia.
Badass. So there you go. All these units, you think that, just operate because they operate. And it's like, no, they all have a purpose. When I was a cop, I came to a door. We got called to a domestic, and it turned out that the guy inside was holding the female hostage. And then we finally talked her to the door, and I was able to rip her out of the hotel room that she was in. We got her to safety, but then SWAT had to go in and blow the entire door because he was in there armed to the teeth and was threatening to kill people. So, is pretty cool that SWAT kind of fills those gaps when, our citizens could start doing pretty terrorist activities. They're going to come in and handle business.
Look, I'll say this. It's a very, I understand both arguments. I understand people when they talk about the militarization of law enforcement and how it's going too far that way. I understand what they're saying, and there is an argument there. But then at the same time, you also have to have law enforcement able to deal with a situation like a terrorist. If a terrorist attack, if 4 terrorists, go in and start, if ISIS-K does an attack they did in Russia, and they go in and start shooting the place up, who's going to respond to that? FBI, HRT, yeah, they'll be there in freaking a day.
Right.
It's going to be a SWAT team, the local SWAT team. So. Right. I understand both sides, and both are valid to a degree. And the reality is that there are a lot of threats right now. We live in a disproportionately more dangerous society than we did years ago. And so while I understand both arguments, people also have to understand that if something like that happens, who's going to respond to it as cops?
Absolutely. Yep, because the first ones on the scene are going to be regular patrol cops.
Yep.
Because just like he said, with HRT takes a day to get there. Well, SWAT takes 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So the first people that are going to be there within 2-3 minutes just beat patrol cops, and they're going to be handling business at some of the most dangerous times, society could face.
Yeah, I make the joke when I teach SWAT teams that they're not first responders.
No, they're not. No, they're
and
not.
They're like, what? Yes, we are. We're cops. And I'm like, yeah, but who's there when you get there? And
Yep,
the patrol officers. I'm like, aha. Yeah. And they're like, oh, crap, you're right.
Yep, damn right. Those patrol cops are always holding it down. And unfortunately, a lot of the patrol cops' capability depends on the patrol cop and how much he wants to or she wants to have that capability. Because it's really to the discretion of police. They could be super tacticians and love their job and gung-ho, or they could be people that don't wear vests and hide, and when dangerous calls come out, they go grab coffee instead,
Well, it's one of those things. It's like, again, going back to the people complaining about the militarization of law enforcement. It's like, or the militarization, let's say, of SWAT teams, and it's like the disproportionate part is it's like the first responder is going to be the patrol officer, and they have they don't have special weapons and tactics, which is what literally SWAT stands for. So it's like you've got the SWAT teams increasing their capabilities, and yet patrol officers generally are still stuck at a lack of a lot of tactical training, and special training and special tools that would allow them to better deal with the situation on the ground initially when they arrive, which is that critical window of time.
Yep. As a big city former cop, 100% true.
This is Sunray. Stand 2.
15 minutes till deadline. Stand 2.
We're on, boys.
Let's fucking have it.
So to me, watching this is the pinnacle of cool. And why is because Green Berets don't get to do this. We don't get to go with our boys only most of the time and just go operate. Like if it was me, you, and 5 other operators that we know and trust and care about and have operated with, to me, that's the pinnacle of cool. That's the pinnacle of what an operator wants to do. As a Green Beret, I take all my friends that I love and trust, and they go away and they take 30 Afghans that we don't know, and then I take 30 Afghans that we don't know, and we go operate with those guys by ourselves. And so this to me would be awesome, is to just line up with your boys and go get ready to hit the shit, get in the shit and be in the stack.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, you know, it's the level of confidence that I felt before, you know, a hit, you know, sitting there with, which I believe they're about to do right now. You know, I was a breacher, so I'm putting up a charge. You know, you got a couple other breaches set up with charges. We're waiting on the go, and then we're doing simultaneous hits. You know, the level of confidence I had being with that team, with just, it really is hard to explain. At that point, I didn't even really feel a lot of adrenaline, just because I just felt like that adrenaline kind of comes from a little bit of antsiness. And I was so confident with the group that I was with that I really just was like,
another day in the office.
I felt invincible. I really did. Obviously, I wasn't, and it didn't work out that way. But it was a strange feeling each time, just being with that group of guys that were all way more capable and experienced than I was, and it was an awesome feeling.
Yeah, I love that, and I know it just watching it. And I was like, man, I would just love to have my boys and not a bunch of dudes that honestly don't care. I mean, I've come up on, like, middle of ticks, I've come up on Afghans that I'm in charge of that are holding security, the only person holding security down that alley, and he's got a 249 with the belt fed out of the gun. I'm like, my guy, your gun isn't even loaded.
Yeah.
And you're the only one watching that sector, and we have known combatants right there. They could be coming around here, and I'm depending on you, and you don't even have your gun loaded.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I would want this.
Yeah, I don't
choose this.
I don't understand how, because that stuff happens. You know, I've seen it
29
with people, and it's like how do you mess that up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right. My bad.
Whoops.
You know, I forgot to load it. Oh, like how?
And he knows better. He just doesn't care. He doesn't want to fight.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to shoot at them because he doesn't want them to shoot back at him.
Yeah.
If those guys were to come around that wall and start engaging, I know what he would have done. He would have bailed, and then it would have been my ass on the line, open to that whole side.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if I get shot.
Yeah.
He just wants to go home.
Yeah.
As long as he gets home, he's fine.
Yeah.
Very destructive in confined spaces. 4 ounces of high explosive, 350 steel fragments, if you're interested. The X-rays have got at least 1 each.
And they claim to have a doomsday device.
So, 30 plus rooms over 6 floors, rigged with explosives.
Each terrorist ready to pull the pin for Arabistan.
Alright, that'll be a real Wild West show, boys.
Fine.
Pause.
The new deadline.
So I just listening to that breakdown, it's like a complete total loss. Like it's like a no-win situation. So they have a doomsday device hooked up so everything blows.
Yep.
They got, every one of them has a grenade so they can pull the pin and essentially set off that doomsday device. And then you have 6 floors and 30 rooms to clear. Is that what he said? It was some obnoxious amount of...
A lot of rooms.
A lot of rooms to clear all at the same time. There's no way you could take out all of them at the same time in order to do that safely. So this initial plan is like, you're fucked.
So, I mean, you bring up something interesting about hostage rescue, and that is, you know, the way a hostage rescue mission works is, first of all, it's a last-ditch approval. They're doing everything they possibly can to not send in a CT, counter-terrorism team. The only reason they will ever, and you can look at missions throughout history, the only reason they ever send in a CT team is because negotiations have completely failed. And at that point, it means that all of the hostages are going to die.
Oh, shit.
So what they're basically saying by sending in a CT team is, option, we don't do anything, negotiations are done. Option 1 is we don't do anything and all the hostages die. Option 2 is we send a counterterrorism team in, and here's a fact of what's going to happen. Highly more than likely, we are going to lose some hostages, and highly more than likely, we're going to lose some CT operators. And it's better to have some than none. So it is known, and I can tell you firsthand, when you plan a CT mission, every day that we train for CT, it is known that you're going to lose some operators. Damn. There's not a CT mission that we're ever even conceived of, talked about. Even in training, it was always known that some of us were going to die. Some of us were going to get at least shot. Highly more than likely, some of us are going to die and you're going to lose highly more than likely some of the hostages. And that's the job.
Wow.
And it's an understanding of, that is what it is.
It's sacrificial.
It's sacrificial. And the thing you got to understand that I don't care what anybody says, I'll tell you for a fact, is anyone who says that you can do CQB fast or in a certain way that you won't lose any of the assault team doesn't know what they're talking about. They've never done it. There is no possible way to do CQB so good that you're not going, against more than one bad guy, maybe. Right. But, more than one bad guy, you're going to lose people. It's just the nature of that style of combat. And we've proven that over and over again.